What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Great Men Podcast. I'm your host, Shane Sams, and I've got a great man with me today, a guy that I just spent a few days with out in Colorado. He is Coach Matt McKinney. He guides entrepreneurs and former pro athletes on identity, avoiding burnout, making more money, and how to biohack your dream body and life. And he's a hell of a hang. What's going on, Matt? How you doing, buddy?
My man, doing great. So happy to be here with you.
Hey, how you feeling since the guys' trip? That was a good time, man. I really enjoyed our time together, dude. That was fun.
100%. No, it was amazing. I mean, anytime you can get out and just get real with other entrepreneurs, people on the same wavelength, and just let go of whatever you've been holding in, it's always a good feeling. And you come back with a lot more alignment.
Totally, bro. And then also, you almost killed me on the trail you sent me down because you went and walked that trail, and you're like, "Hey guys, go check out the Texas Ranger Loop or whatever it was down there." And boy, it was awesome going down. And then I realized very fast that I live at sea level most of the year. Coming back up, dude, I was huffing and puffing, man. That was a tough climb out of that dang ravine, man.
No, altitude's a real thing, man. You got to be careful when you get up into the mountains and not pushing yourself too hard. So I'm glad you survived.
I survived. A couple of the guys put me over their shoulders like good bros. And they just pulled me out, man. Hey, let's start off with something fun, man. Like what's beautiful in your life right now, man? What's going on that you're grateful for, or what's happening?
I am actually in the process of bringing on an investor for my winery. So the
Mm.
last 12 years of my life has been, well, the last 15 years of my life. I planted the first vineyard of my family's property 15 years ago. 12 years ago, moved back home to turn my family property into a winery. And that's been my entire life for the last 12 years. But I finally realized that I'm ready to move on to the next step in my life. I'd like to just be more of an advisor to my winery. And so now I have a couple interested investors that want to come on and take the winery to the next level. So I'm really excited about that. And hopefully I'll be working a deal out here soon.
Nice, man. Is that going to be like a full-blown purchase, or are you going to like just sell equity and still own stakes in it, or
Yeah, most likely I'll probably retain a little bit of equity in it. That's kind of the goal. I would like to stay involved. It was my baby the last 12 years. It's got my family name on it. Obviously, that could change on a majority buyout, which I would be okay with. I think for me, just the life experience of building my winery from the ground up has turned me into the man that I've become, and I'm super grateful for that. So I'm not necessarily like attached necessarily to my family name being on the winery. More or less, I see the wine industry in my hometown as a part of my own identity. So it'd be fun to be involved with someone who's really passionate about going from small boutique successful winery to that next like mid-tier level of success. And I would enjoy being a part of that. So hopefully that's what happens.
yeah, we got to unpack that here in a little while. Like the whole, I grew up in a family business as well, worked there for a little while. And then the first business that Jocelyn and I, my wife, ever created, we sold that. And that was such an interesting, weird experience to let go of something that you poured all your sweat equity in like for so long. But we'll circle back around to that. Now you've got a fascinating background, dude. So you played basketball, right? You played college basketball.
Basketball and volleyball at
That's
UCLA.
right. That's right. That's right. And what years did you play there?
02 to 05.
That's crazy, man. Like, what was it like? Like I'm a basketball aficionado, being a guy from Kentucky who is the winningest basketball program of all time. I'm just gonna throw that out there for my Bruins fans over here. They got a few more titles. I know what you're about to say. I know what you're. But what was that?
I was about to say, dude, I'm about to correct your ass on that one.
No, I knew it was coming. I was ready to preempt. But the what was it? What was it like? Like stepping into that is true greatness in the sports world. I mean, UCLA has the most national titles, one of the winningest programs ever, national powerhouse. Like, what did that feel like to be, I guess, recruited, but then accepted into a family like that, a true program of greatness?
Yeah, it was almost like a ethereal experience. I remember the first time I ran out of Poly Pavilion onto the court into the whole crowd for my first game, and Yeah, it was surreal. It was like, wow, I made it. This was my childhood dream. I grew up in Woodland Hills, which is just outside of Los Angeles, and I grew up going to UCLA games. And interesting connection that we have is that my dad is from Bowling Green, Kentucky, and
Let's go.
I grew up like a big Wildcats fan. So UCLA and University of Kentucky were my two top schools that I would have wanted to play basketball at. So
Wow.
obviously, getting a scholarship to UCLA was a dream come true. At that time, I was living in Santa Ynez, just 2 hours away from UCLA, so it was a no-brainer to take that scholarship. But yeah, it's crazy. I almost get chills now just even thinking about the first day I ran out onto the court and how incredible that experience was. It was a lifetime accomplishment at a young age.
Yeah, man. I was very fortunate enough. I didn't play any college sports, but I was fortunate enough to coach college football. It is a weird feeling. Like I got the job. I went in, I worked for Rich Rodriguez. He was the head coach at West Virginia when I got my first college job. And it is hard to explain what being on the court or the field at a college football game feels like. It's almost overwhelming. Like it took me about half a season to even stop pinching myself, right? But when you see that, I see how it shaped me into the driven, ambitious person I am because all the players are driven and ambitious, and all the coaches are driven and ambitious. So, like, how did that translate after you left toward your own pursuit of greatness in your career?
I had a really difficult college experience. I had a lot of
Oh,
health issues and a lot of injuries. So while it was a dream come true to play both basketball and volleyball, which by the way are the two UCLA basketball and volleyball, it's the most winningest university for both sports in the entire country.
wow. Wow.
So pretty insane, to have that opportunity, but it didn't go my way. Like I had lots of issues. I had like a horrible stomach issue I had to deal with. It's taken me 20 years to realize that I'm allergic to lectins, which are plant-based proteins. So a lot of healthy foods actually cause a lot of problems for me. I tore my labrum in my shoulder 1 year. I broke a bone in my foot 1 year. So it was like this really tragic scenario, actually, where I didn't live up to my expectations. And not only my expectations, but I mean, everyone else's expectations who knew the type of athlete that I was, because I was the number one volleyball player in the country out of high school. And I was like top 50 in the country in basketball. So there
Jeez.
was a lot of hype based around what I was supposed to do. And I didn't accomplish those things. And just to show you just how rough my college experience went, I actually medically retired my senior year in 2006 because I had so many health issues and injuries, and I just hated sports at that point. I was so sick of it. And the year that I medically retired, my basketball team went to the national championship in Lake Florida,
Okay, that's what it was.
and my volleyball team won the national championship. So
Wow.
I was at home and I literally wanted to blow my brains out that year. I was so depressed.
So tell me about that real quick, and I want to circle back to the stomach problems because that's a interesting thing to have to deal with. Because once your gut goes, you got problems. You know what I'm saying? But like,
Totally.
what did that? You know, you're hyped out of high school. You've got all this potential. You've gotten the deal. You've made it to the dance, and then all these things start happening, and it starts building up. Like, for a young man who had accomplished so much, depression that early is an interesting cat to kind of wrestle. You know what I'm saying? So, like, what did that feel like in that moment? Like, especially when you saw right when you were on the cusp of it, you left and they won all these things. Like, what was that like to get depression that young?
Yeah, it was tough, man. It was tough. I mean, my, Steve Lavin recruited me at UCLA, and he's like a total like players coach type of guy. You consider him like a friend almost. And I really liked Coach Lavin a lot. And then we had a really rough season my freshman year, and Lavin got fired, and Ben Howland came in. And Ben Howland was the polar opposite. Very
Mm.
difficult individual. Never has a smile on his face, just kind of angry all the time. Not kind of, like angry all the time. Yeah, it wasn't a fun experience playing for him by any means. And then I had the health issues as well. And, he kind of came in trying to kick all of the Lavin recruits out so he could bring in his own recruits. So that just made all of my situation that much worse. It wasn't easy, to say the least.
Yeah. What'd you do after, after you left the school or whatever? Like what, how did you overcome that? We can unpack it a little bit later, but like it had to be a journey for a while afterwards to kind of figure out what you were going to do next. I see this a lot with athletes, whether it was, I coached high school football for about 9 years. And, a lot of guys don't go play college or anything. And they're like, crap, I was a football player and now I'm nothing. I'm just going out into the workforce. And then I saw college players, they'd be great college athletes. Then they'd go to that pro day and they're, for the first time in their life, someone's like, you ain't good enough, bro. What are you going to do with your life? Like what did you
Yep.
do after that, to kind of move
Yeah.
through the world?
Yeah, major identity crisis for sure. Anytime an athlete has to give up sports as their identity and shift, their life focus. I found I started looking for homeopathic and naturopathic doctors and started working with them, and I started making progress on my stomach. That year that I was medically retired, by the end of that year in college, I called up the Olympic team coach for men's volleyball, and I asked him if I could start training with U.S. national team that next year. Fortunately, even though I, had such a rough college experience, I only played two like quarter to half seasons of volleyball while I was
Mm.
at UCLA. But I was such a good athlete that he let me start coming and training with the U.S. national team that year after. I wasn't ready to give up sports yet, and I just knew that if I didn't take a stab at it and try and have a pro career in one sport, I just wasn't going to be able to live with myself. So luckily, I moved down to Anaheim after that year, and I started training with U.S. national team, and I started just slowly building my athleticism back up. Taking 1 year off definitely had an impact on me, but after a full year training with U.S. national team, I was performing pretty well, and then I got my first pro contract to play pro indoor volleyball in Puerto Rico at that time. And I ended up playing professionally in Puerto Rico, Greece, and Italy over a 3 year period, and completely transformed my life, completely changed who I am as a person. And I, was fortunate enough to stay relatively healthy throughout that 3 year period. Injuries were always kind of a thing, and that's why ultimately I did hang up playing pro. When I didn't make the London Olympic team, I got cut on that. That was when I started saying to myself, it's time to probably start thinking more long term. And I had already planted the vineyard while I was playing pro volleyball, which that's a whole nother story to talk about.
Totally. So that's about the time you came into the family business then? That's about when it happened? Or was it a little bit
No,
later?
so actually, my winery is not a family business. So,
Mm.
here it is, McKinney Family Vineyards, and it definitely sounds like a passed down business, but I just named it that as a tribute to my parents,
Okay.
basically, and my gratitude to them for having moved me to San Ynez when I was 10 years old and having this opportunity to turn our family property into a winery. So,
Okay, I get it. I
I
see what's going on.
I made a deal with my dad my third season playing pro volleyball in Puerto Rico that if I won the championship that year, would he finally let me plant a vineyard on the property. And I've been trying to talk him into it for a number of years. The movie Sideways had come out. Have you ever seen that with Paul Giamatti?
I know what it is, but I've not seen it. I've not seen
So
that
it's
movie. Yeah.
super low budget film, but it ended up winning like an Academy Award, and it was just huge, and it blew up the local wine industry in my hometown. And my best friend's dad was the tasting room manager of one of the better wineries in town, and he was a German guy, lived in France for many years, and so growing up in high school, he'd always let us have a glass or two of wine, anytime I had dinner at my friend's house, and he started teaching us even in high school. And in college, we all had fake IDs, and my two best friends both worked at his winery, and so when you work at a local winery, you get a business card with your name on it, and you actually get free wine tastings of all the wineries in town. So when I was in college, every summer I was coming home and going wine tasting with my buddies, and we just had the best time ever. And we started strategizing like how we were going to get into the wine industry. And my two best friends ended up starting their own boutique wine distribution company right after college. And then I was, in my own head saying, okay, like, how am I going to pull this off, planting my family's property and turning it into a winery? So I've been trying to talk my dad into it. And my dad had always been like, you're crazy. Like, you're traveling. I'm going to have to take care of the vineyard. He's like, you can't plant a vineyard. And originally I was trying to get the front 4 acres of our 10-acre property planted, but my dad, definitely being a savvier businessman than myself, he said, if you win, I'll let you plant the back half-acre horse pasture. And I said, all right, you got the deal. So
Thanks,
anyway,
Pops.
luck
Yep.
had it that I ended up winning the championship that year. And my parents were both there, 8,000 people at every game. There was a parade of like 15 or 20,000 people through San Juan after we won. We were
Wow.
on the back of like a lifted truck with like Bacardi bottles in our hands and thousands of people in the streets. And it was crazy. It was like we were like the Lakers of Puerto Rico. And that amazing experience, it culminated in my first little vineyard, and that's how my wine business began.
Nice, man. That's beautiful. Let's go back. Let's go back to the health thing. I went through some struggles like for a while with my health. Like I got really overweight. Mine wasn't wine, it was Oreos. That was my je ne sais quoi of choice. You know what I'm saying? Or whatever they say. But it was much more Oreos than good wine. But I had a health scare, man, and I went in the hospital. I got a staph infection in my blood, and like I was literally almost dead. Like we were preparing to like file insurance and stuff. Like it was crazy. And when I came out of that, I kind of realized that like if you're that unhealthy, it doesn't matter how much money you make, it doesn't matter how good your kids do in school, it doesn't matter how cool your business is or how many downloads you get on your podcast, man. If your body is not healthy, it's really hard for your soul to kind of come out into the world. So how did you like for guys out there that might be struggling with some kind of health thing? How did you correct that? How did you figure it out? And then what got you into like biohacking and like being a healthier person?
Oh man, loaded question right there. I got a long story. So,
I'm here for it, baby. I'm here for it.
all right. So, one is that yes, you lose your health and you lose your mind in the process. I
Mm.
dealt with a lot of depression in college based upon the health issues that I had. I also lost all faith for Western medicine doctors through that whole experience. I was going to UCLA medical, all these tests run on me, cameras down my throat, up my ass, all this different stuff. Some pretty gnarly tests that I was getting run on me. And they could never figure out what was wrong with me. All they could ever tell me is that you have irritable bowel syndrome. We don't know why. And here's some pills. And they put me on an antidepressant pill that has a side effect where it slows down your digestive system in your stomach.
Mm.
Yeah.
Double
So
whammy.
not only was I taking 50 milligrams a night of an antidepressant pills, but I was taking 4 Imodium ADs every night as well, just to live like a somewhat normal life. But you can only imagine. It's like it can only do so much to correct the imbalance that's going on within you. And so I had a lot of psychological issues based upon just how difficult that situation was. Because my freshman year of college, I lost like 15 pounds. I came in at like 220 pounds, and I got down to like 205 pounds at one point,
Mm.
and I was really struggling. And the pills then straightened me
And,
out.
and let me clarify. How tall are you?
I'm 6'8".
Yeah, 6'8" and 205 is not the same as 5'8" and 205, guys. If you're keeping score out there, it's like you're Holocaust victim status at that point. You're starting to lose it.
Totally, very thin. Yeah. So yeah, at the end of the day, they never could tell me anything that actually could help me heal.
Mm.
And that is where biohacking, came into play later down the road. Biohacking wasn't a thing, 20, 25 years ago, but, as that catchphrase caught momentum, let's say 10 years ago or whatever, I definitely have dove deep into how do I heal myself, because nobody has
Mm.
ever provided the solutions for me. And that led me into carnivore diet. And the carnivore diet was like the start of realizing that, oh wow, like my stomach can actually function like normal, or at least like it was the polar opposite. So for instance, for me, carnivore diet like would give me constipation, which for 20 years I didn't even know that I could get constipated. I didn't even think that was like a thing.
Huh.
And then I found the plant paradox diet after that, which is Dr. Stephen Gundry.
I've read that
And
book actually. I've actually read
that
that book.
was
It's
that
good.
was the game changer that changed my life. I started adding one vegetable back at a time per day, or like one fruit back at a time per day, while I was eating my all meat diet. And then I figured out, it's like, okay, yeah, these lectin vegetables that he's talking about that have these plant-based proteins in there are 100% what's screwing up my stomach. And I'm just such a big advocate now of all people doing an elimination diet. I personally think carnivore is the best one you can possibly do, because meat is like the most essential thing you can put in your body, especially as a man, to like have power and like, get through your day. But then just adding that one other thing back every day and knowing
And seeing what happens. It's like split testing your own digestive system, basically. Yeah.
It's so important.
Did you go all the way down to like beef and salt at first, or did you go like just meat, or how carnivore did you get? Because I know some people go all the way down to like one meat for a month and just a meat and salt or something like that. And then they start adding even meat back in one at a time.
That was what I did. It was just meat and salt. That's it.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then you would add like an orange to see what happened, basically.
Yep. 100%.
Fascinating.
And I realized that all fruits were totally fine. It's like if I ate like 80% meat with 20% fruit, my stomach functions perfectly. And then vegetables, like all vegetables have like small amounts of lectins in them. So obviously like I'm like super sensitive to these things called lectins. So the more vegetables I eat, the more my stomach kind of gets thrown off, even if it's like the supposed no lectin vegetables. So yeah, it's crazy, man. It makes me wonder how many people are out there suffering from the same issue and they just have no clue, because Western medicine doctors, they don't know a thing about lectins.
Totally, man. I prescribe to the Dana White philosophy of Western medicine. If I'm in a car wreck, get me to the emergency room. Someone put a tourniquet on me. Somebody make me not die right then. But dude, man, I had my testosterone like got all whacked out, man, about 2 or 3 years ago, and I didn't know it. I didn't know you were supposed to test for it. I didn't know you were supposed to go get it looked at. I didn't know anything about all this stuff back then. And then all of a sudden, I was getting depressed, and I was getting angry, and I was getting unmotivated, and I was just feeling so. I'd go to the gym, and I'd do 3 sets, and I would be exhausted. And then I got all my blood work ran, and I was like, my testosterone, I was in the fluctuation stage of like, it's called hypergonadism, where you would go like 600 one time, then 400 the next, and then 530, and then it would just go up and down. And I went to the doctor to test it out. Now, about this time, I had gotten some stem cell therapy, which is an alternative medicine at this point because insurance won't cover it. And it just totally healed my shoulder. And I went to the doctor, and I was like, hey, I've done some other things, like maybe I can get on hormone replacement. And he was like, oh, Shane, your last test was 385. That's normal for a man your age. And I was like, I don't want to feel my age. I want to feel good. I want to feel healthy. I want to be like, I want to control my body and go out into the world and do stuff. And he was just delaying it. And then he wanted me to go to an endocrinologist, and he wanted to go to someone else. And I realized I was at the top of a sales funnel. That's what Western medicine is now. It's just the top of a sales funnel to milk you as much money as possible. And eventually the third guy tells you he doesn't know what's going on. So I took matters into my own hands, dude. I just started I found a way to get it. And then I found a way to get it legally. Then I found a way, like my doctor wouldn't let me. So I got some from a buddy, and I started doing it, and I started feeling better. And then I went on one of these online companies who was a telehealth. That was super easy. And then once they prescribed it, I took it back to another doctor in town so they could just take over my prescription. And then when I started getting into that and the peptides changed my life. Like everything I was doing, like my diet, everything I was doing for me, researching it myself worked. And everything the doctors told me was completely wrong. They put me on antidepressants too. Instead of fixing the cause, they just wanted to mask it. And that's not good enough, man.
No, it's insane. The more you open up and talk about these experiences, it's crazy how many people have been through this exact same scenario. It's really sad what our medical industry has deteriorated to.
Yeah, man. I told a buddy, there's a guy in the Great Men community over at greatmen.org, in case you want to join. But in the Great Men community, and he was really struggling with all the symptoms I had. And I was like, dude, if you checked your testosterone, and his doctor wouldn't even let him do it. And I was like, screw that. Go to this place I found. He got it 6 weeks ago. He was on a call today on our group call. Dude was joyous. His energy was back. And he was like, my sex drive's back. My wife's running from me. You know, like it was just like, but it was like you really do, like with your gut as a man, you have to take control of your own body. It's not the doctor's job. It's not anybody else's job to tell you how to be the healthiest version of you. You gotta go out and you gotta make it happen yourself.
You
You know what I'm
you
saying?
have to become the CEO of your own health, is what I've
Oh,
learned.
yeah, man.
And
It's a
you
good
know, at
word.
the end, you just can't, we just can no longer, put our health in the hands of other people, because no one is going to care about your health more than you. And so if you don't take full ownership for that responsibility, you're going to suffer.
Yeah, and you are a one of one. Like I can eat lectins. You cannot. I need hormone replacement therapy. Somebody else may not. But
Yep.
like even the cookie cutter thing where everybody's supposed to be healthy, like all those numbers on those blood work, what makes you feel good? What makes you perform the best? Your numbers are going to be different than everybody else's. And I'm a conspiracy theory guy too. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, did you know that I learned I was selling for a stem cell company one time because I believed in the product so much I went out and sold for them on stage. And there was something I may butcher this, so correct me if I'm wrong when you listen. There was a time where blood pressure, you know how they say like blood pressure perfect is 120 over 80? Well, it
Yep.
used to be the benchmark used to be much higher. I think it was like 170 over something. But then somebody realized that they had medicine that could make blood pressure drop. And if they could get people on it every day, they would have to pay every month. And they lobbied the rules to lower the blood pressure so everyone had high blood pressure at that point. And now the
Yep.
doctor can legally say you have high blood pressure. You need to lower it down. But it was already healthy for
Yep.
everybody. So what else is like that, bro? You know what I'm
100%.
saying?
I mean, honestly, testosterone's the same for sure.
Totally.
They've just lowered it and told you that that's normal when it's totally not. And that's all about the demasculization, you could say, of our country, which is strategic for sure. I
Totally,
mean,
man.
that's the easiest way to take over a country: just turn everyone into a bunch of beta males, and that you do it.
That's right, man. Kick them off the curb, bro. Did you have support during this time? Like I got hurt playing football and I missed my senior year. And when you're not in it every day, I kind of lost my identity because I lost my peer group. They're over here doing this and I'm over here kind of running around by myself now. You know what I'm saying? Did you have guys around you like when you came out of volleyball or to support you or to help you like learn about this stuff, or were you just kind of white knuckling this all by yourself trying to figure your health out?
Yeah, I was pretty much by myself. I mean, most of the athletes that I was surrounded around didn't have health issues. So I
Mm,
felt like I was in my own little prison of my own mind to some degree, dealing with my own issues, looking at other guys that are like perfectly healthy all around me. So yeah, it was literally up to me, man, to save myself. And it's been a long process, because the information just wasn't really there 15 to 20 years ago to lead me in the right direction to figuring my issues out. And also, like, because back then it was just this belief that doctors have your best interests at heart, and everyone just believed that back then. Whereas like now, people are way more suspicious. People hear about all the issues that are not getting solved by doctors, and they're biohacking. These frames of like, how do I solve my own health issues, have become more mainstream. So but back then, man, it's like we were all just suffering.
dang, man. What was it like growing up where like with your family or just the people you were around? I mean, you were definitely around a lot of athletes and coaches, but like what was your model for being a man like growing up? You know what I'm saying? Like how did you learn masculinity or learn manhood growing up, and then how do you maybe view that a little bit differently now?
Yeah, well, that was definitely modeled by my father. My dad was a big man, so 6'5", 250 pounds, big Viking looking type individual. And he did a great job of embodying masculinity from a strength standpoint, like leading his family, loving his family. He was there for us at all times, like his presence was there. Where my dad was really lacking was emotional intelligence and empathy for other people. My dad definitely was a narcissist, so it was
Mm.
easy for him to like just block everything out, push forward, have that ultra masculine demeanor of like, get the fuck out of my way, I'm going to accomplish whatever I set out to accomplish, and that's that. And you don't show emotion. And that's what he basically taught me. And it's good because in the physical world around us, like that type of intensity and focus towards accomplishing in the world and just blocking out everything else, like you can achieve that way. But once you do start having success, you realize that you're never quite fully fulfilled. It's like you were never truly accepted for who you are. Like your feelings were always suppressed and repressed in that process. And so once you do reach these higher levels of success that you were trained to achieve in life, you realize that, I'm not actually all that fulfilled. I never actually learned how to like be happy. And that's because I never learned how to process my emotions, just like my father and my father's fathers before him.
Yeah, man. Generations of that shit going way back, you know? And what that does is it creates an unknown emptiness inside you that is very jarring when you realize it, because you do come to a crossroads where you're like, all right, I got to either grind harder, which will probably kill me, or I've got to figure out why the more I achieve, the more hollow I get. You know what I'm saying? Like you said something interesting a minute ago. You said you lose your health, you lose your mind. Tell me more about that. Like, how did you, when you realized that there was more to life than push ahead, how did you get your mind back? You know what I'm saying? Like, how did you find a way to process emotions? How did you learn how to do that?
Whew. Honestly, I had to experience burnout, to be
Mm,
perfectly honest. I didn't understand my mind and how it operated. And so on the Enneagram, the personality type, I'm the 3. I'm the achiever, performer personality type. And I didn't learn this until after extreme burnout and a near death experience through workaholism with my business. But I finally took a step back, went to psychotherapy, figured out my personality type. And it's actually quite common that the 3, the achiever, performer personality type, lives in this constant cycle of grandiosity and depression over and
mm,
over again. And we tie our self-worth to our achievements. And
mm,
so the thing is that once we achieve a certain thing, we're wired to create the next thing to achieve. If we don't have that purpose of seeking the next thing, our life has no value because we haven't learned unconditional love for ourselves. At the end of the
mm.
day, our mind operates on a conditional love basis that we won't be loved by the people around us unless we achieve. And so we're always chasing, and we can never just be. We can never relax. We can never say that like, you're good, you did it, like congratulations. And so
Enough. This is enough. I am enough.
I am
Yeah, man.
enough.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. I'm a 7, which is the champion. And like that I went on a similar arc of, oh, wait a minute. I don't have to save somebody else to like freaking do anything. I don't have to be anybody's freaking hero. I got to be my own hero. And I'll tell you my big, when I lost my mind, coming out of it with a lot of therapy, some psychedelics and some other stuff like that, I realized that I was self-sabotaging things I would achieve on purpose to create new crisis that I could go be the hero in.
Wow.
And dude, it was crazy, man. I can track back all the way to my first job where I would achieve something, burn it down or quit and go to the next thing to do something different. And even in my business career, even though I kind of was better at moving the ball forward so it wouldn't totally destroy everything, I was just playing, I was creating bigger and bigger games and then tearing down the Legos and rebuilding them just so I could get off on succeeding and being the hero again one more time, being the champion, being the guy that everybody calls. And man, these patterns that come from stuff like that are absolutely like destructive. Like, what did that pattern for you? Like, what was the biggest challenge that it created in your life? Like, when you
Yeah,
realized that, like, what was happening?
yeah. I mean, the unconscious belief that I was living in was that I'm not good enough. And it took
Mm,
a lot of work for me to really realize that it was the defining belief that created the parasitic side of my internal dialogue that would demean myself and demoralize myself, and nothing's ever good enough, and like you're not living up to your expectations. And that was literally my driving force. Like I'm a hyper achiever and success oriented individual, but not in a healthy way. Like a lot of us are actually like really fucked up psychologically, and that's what pushes us to achieve greatness in this world. And until we can uncode, the unconscious patterns going on within our mind and the negative subconscious beliefs, we're not coming from a healthy place in terms of how we engage with accomplishing in the world.
I'm wrestling with this a little bit, probably in the last year or so. A lot of the guys that I know that are our age and are like have achieved great things, and they kind of not have made it to the other side of everything. We're all healing as we go, but like they've started to realize these patterns and they've started to, kind of reform some new patterns. How do you hold that drive and ambition in the same Venn diagram or space with I've done enough, I am enough, I've achieved, like, or even without the achievements, I'm good. I'm a good dude, I'm a good man, I am enough for me. Because I think that some people, when they find this out, they go the opposite direction. They just freaking go off the grid and their whole family falls apart and they stop trying to make money and they're just like, driving around in a van out by a river or something. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know guys like that. I know guys that are just like, I'm out. I'm going and living with the hobos out in the desert, right? Like, how do you hold that drive without letting that engine fire back up again to where I have to achieve the next thing?
That's a really good question, actually. And I wrestled with this for a long time. There's a really good book called Ego is the Enemy. It's a stoicism book. I'm trying to remember the author's name right now. I'm drawing a blank on him. He lives in Austin or somewhere in Texas. Young guy. He's got like 8 different books on stoicism. But
Oh, it's
ego is
Ryan
the
Holiday. That's Ryan
Yeah,
Holiday.
Ryan Holiday. Thank you.
Yep.
I've read pretty much all of his books. They're really good. But the missing component, I think, with ego is the enemy, is that you're not fully integrating like this side of yourself that actually was quite important towards like driving you to be successful and to stay safe and to accomplish. And in many ways, like your ego serves a very important function, and I think you have to make peace with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think labeling your ego as the enemy is actually the wrong tactic. You have to get to a point where you can recognize your ego. You can recognize that the voice in my head right now is not actually me. Because there's actually a really good book that I want to reference on this, and it's called The Mastery of Self by Don Miguel Ruiz. And the way that
Nice.
he
Great.
breaks
That's a great book. I can total double down on that. It's incredible. Yep.
phenomenal. Until I read that book, I didn't really understand how the mind worked, and particularly the ego. And the way that he describes it is that there's 2 different sides of your ego. There's the parasite, which is demeaning you and demoralizing you, putting yourself down all the time. And there is the ally, and the ally is pumping yourself up and telling you you're fucking great and you can do it and you can accomplish anything. But it's important to recognize that both of those voices are not actually you. Like it's not
Mm.
coming from like your soul or your intuition. It's basically this mechanism that was created through the thoughts and opinions of other people throughout your lifetime and your lived experiences. So until you can become the observer of your own ego's self-talk, and you can unidentify from it and recognize that that's not actually me. So whatever emotion that voice is triggering within my head, I can feel it, but I can understand that I'm not going to allow it to just drive my
Yeah.
internal emotional state and how I interact in the world. And
Mm.
so until I read that book, I didn't fully comprehend the ego, and now I do. And so now I can say that I've come to peace with my ego, and I can even like acknowledge like, you know, the either the parasite or the ally, and say, oh, like there you are again, and you're here to serve me, and I appreciate you. And you know, at times I'll even be like, let's fucking go with it right now, like pump
Totally,
me up,
man.
give it to me, ally, you know,
Yeah,
or
man.
give it to me, parasite, because you're here to protect me. I get it, you know. And so now it's a positive dialogue within my ego taking place, and that creates a lot of peace once you come to that level of acceptance.
Yeah, man. And psychedelics is funny because when you first do a ketamine assisted therapy or you do something like that, everybody talks about ego dissolution, which is a real thing. Like you can totally just dissolve into oneness on that stuff. But I think, but people usually they stop there. Like they make it treat it like ego is bad. And like another book that I'll reference, I probably reference this every show. Like probably the most important book that's ever impacted me ever is No Bad Parts by Richard Schwartz, because it talks about parts work and multi-brain theory, which basically says like your brain is not one brain. Like when you sit at night on a Friday night and you're like, I don't feel like going out tonight, but part of me does. That's true. You have two parts inside of you. Your neurons fire in two different directions. There's a story that those neurons tell every time they fire, every time you remember something. And you basically have these parts. And then behind that is like yourself, the true self, like the person who should be driving the car, the adult in the room or whatever. And like the ego, even when I started doing parts work and I started going to therapy and started working with people who were trained in it, it took me a while to realize that what we call the ego is a part. That is a part of you that, like you said, is trying to keep you safe. The critic is trying to stop you because you're going too fast. The part that tells you you're Superman and a god and you can do anything is the part of you that's trying to make you go to the next level and have survive and thrive and do all these things. And when you take that mentality, like I love what you said, the parasite. Hey, thanks for trying to protect me. But right now, I'm going to go ahead and do this because I think this is going to be the right thing to do. Like that's how I literally interact with my brain. If people knew the conversations I was having in my mind with myself at all times, if I said it out loud, they would think I was a crazy person. If I was walking around and talking, hey, Shane, what are you going to do today? I don't know, Parasite. What do you want to do today? Like you're sitting there literally like having this conversation at light speed in your head. But like that's where the peace comes from. Is it's like accepting your kids. Like yesterday, my daughter was in the car and she just straight, I don't know, she lost her mind. She was just talking back and being a little disrespectful. And she's a sweetheart. You know what I'm saying? But like that's a part of her, and it came from something that was going on in her personal life, and she was upset and whatever. And like it's like your kids, man. You love them no matter what, even when the part that shows up isn't the good one. There's a reason for it, and the good parts, like your ego, like I'm not gonna lie, you have to have ego to walk out on stage in front of 10,000 people. If you don't tap into that ego, that crowd will eat you alive. But like our world is all, you should have no ego. You don't want, you're too ambitious. You're hurting people, whatever it is. But society doesn't support this kind of mindset. Like that's not what we're taught in our railroad tracks that we get growing up. You know what I'm saying? Like, can you imagine if someone told you at 6'8" in high school, son, you really need to squash that ego and just be totally humble, and you need to be a little less aggressive sometimes when you're out there on the court. Like, how could you have even survived in AAU basketball or whatever?
No, the ego is all you have is your ego identity as an athlete when you're young, and like that is what pushes you to want to beat down your opponent, basically. And you have to
Totally.
have.
Yeah. My wife says something interesting. She says, people get mad about their childhood trauma or this, that, or the other, and they cut people out and all this stuff. But she's like, when you take a kid and you're born in this pure state, when you get to middle school, you really need to be an acorn. You got to have a hard shell that forms around you. And when you go through your teenage years and your 20s as a man, dude, in your 20s, if you don't have that thick, protective inner critic keeping you in line, like moving, like there's no way you could survive the world. But then when we get to like where you're like 38, 39, 40, you got a family, you're doing stuff, a lot of people want that shell to stay and they bury themselves deeper so they don't grow because they don't know anything else. But you can't bloom into the man that you really are until you shed that outer shell, until you bloom a little bit. And now you still have all the bark and protection of the tree and the leaves and all that stuff, but then you can tie into the network. You can communicate with other things. You can be a little more vulnerable and open so that you have more opportunities to get that support that we don't really have when we're growing up.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I resonate with everything you just said right there.
Yeah, man. Tell me about your family, man. What's your family look like, your inner circle?
Yeah, so I was an only child growing up. My dad actually grew up on a cattle milking orphanage farm in Kentucky. His parents passed when he was 2, and so
Mm.
luckily he had 4 brothers and sisters, and they all went to live on the same farm together. So he had them growing up. My dad got a basketball scholarship to Tennessee Tech and was drafted to Vietnam his 3rd year in college. So he never graduated
Ooh.
from college. When he got discharged from Vietnam, he said there was an hour difference in flights, one to go back to Kentucky, or he could have hopped on an hour earlier flight and gone to Los Angeles. And he said he was in such a hurry to get out of Vietnam, he just hopped on the LA flight and he started a new life in LA.
No way, man.
Yeah.
That's wild, dude. So he
Yeah.
just got there and had nothing? Like, what did he do?
He had nothing. He just started a new life. I mean, he was an orphan kid. He had nothing when he left for Vietnam, too, you know?
Dang, bro. What empathy and compassion for a guy though, man, to be able to tap into like that's something that me and you cannot imagine. I can't imagine doing that. I can't imagine getting on a plane randomly to LA, no money in your pocket. You got to find a job, you got to find a place to sleep, you got to find a place to live. Like no wonder he was hard as hell going forward in life, man. That's
Yeah.
crazy. And then you meet your mom out there or something in California?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I think like 2 years later, he met my mom playing beach volleyball in Venice Beach.
Wow,
And
man.
my dad was a production manager for Schlitz malt liquor for like 10 years. And, he didn't really know what he was going to do with his life. And he was just kind of, I think, enjoying his life. I think after Vietnam, it was like, I could die at any time, so I might as well enjoy it type of mentality. But then he started getting more serious once he got married with my mom, and then once my mom was pregnant with me, and he started self teaching himself the stock market, and he ended up creating his own money management business. And
Nice.
so I think by the time I was like 2 or 3, he quit working for Schlitz and he was all in on money management. And then by the time I was 10, he had enough money saved up to where he bought his dream property up in Santa Ynez. And my mom, we had 4 horses. My mom could ride horses on the property, and it was just kind of their dream to move to the country.
Wow. What was your mom like? What was she like growing up?
My mom was a nurse practitioner, and she's from
Mm,
Bakersfield originally. And yeah, very humble, like, middle class family. Her dad worked in the oil fields in Bakersfield, and she was always very like driven, and she knew what she wanted. She knew she was going to be a nurse from a young age, and she went to college in Los Angeles for nursing, and then delivered babies at Santa Monica Hospital for a number of years, and then went into women's private practice after that. And later, when we moved to St. Inez, she became an esthetician.
that's amazing, right? Are you married? Are you married right now?
No, not married. I'll be 43 at the end of the month. So about a year and a half ago, I bought a place down in Newport Beach, and I've been split. I basically have delegated myself out of my business, my wine business,
Nice.
and that's where I'm looking for my future wife. Which I will say, I met a girl recently that I'm pretty excited about. So
Heck yeah,
we'll see
man.
what happens there.
What does partnership mean to you? Like, I think that's like it's funny. I've been married 28. I've been with my wife for 28 years. We've been married for 22. And when you get married at first, it's just like, oh wait, I say all those vows. I guess that's what being married is. You know what I'm saying? But then you realize like you need different forms of partnership as you go. Like what would partnership in your inner circle look like for you right now?
Yeah, like for me, I need a woman who is one an athlete. Like health and wellness has to be like the foundation. I've been through so much with my own health and wellness that is just an absolute non-negotiable. The
Yeah.
second non-negotiable is a highly intelligent person who's done a lot of psychological work, a lot of personal growth work, and has depth. Like I need depth of conversation, and I need someone who is driven to have an impact of some sort in other people's lives. So
Mm,
I'd say that those are like the main core values towards like the future that we're building together. And then
beautiful.
yeah, I think my parents, really did embody like a loving relationship to me, and that's ultimately what I want for myself, and having my own children is a very emotionally stable and well-functioning relationship where the parents have a burning desire and love for each other, and
Mm.
can talk things out in a very emotionally mature way.
Yeah, man. That's actually, it's kind of like, I don't think envious is the right word, but like it is beautiful to see a guy like you that I've hung out with talking now. We're just go. It's beautiful to have wisdom in this part of your life that you can apply to partnership. Because when you get married in your 20s, it's just like, she's hot, she's willing, we get along good, but like there's so many bumps in the road as you're figuring out yourself, because you're not really a man till you're 30 and you're not really grown until you're 40. I mean, let's be honest, you're figuring shit out. That's what you're doing, right? Which is, I
100%.
think, I think that's why everyone has a midlife crisis, is because you're like, oh crap, the person I was the first 40 years might not be who I actually am. And it's such
100%.
a beautiful thing to be able to take that wisdom, man, into a relationship, and to be able to know what you're looking for instead of just, will you help me pay bills and make kids, which is kind of what you do when you're young, right?
Yeah, there's a scene in the Matrix, where Neo goes to the Oracle's house, and he needs guidance on his journey, and she points at a sign that says "Temet no se," which is like Latin for "Know thyself."
Mm.
And I don't know, that movie struck me at a young age. I was in high school when I saw the movie, and I just said to myself, like, I have to know myself before I can make bigger life decisions. And I kind of always had that in my head, that until I truly know who I am as a person, like I'm not really ready for that end all be all partnership in my
Yeah,
life.
I totally get it, man. Yeah. And for anyone out there struggling in your marriage right now, you should probably know yourself before you blame your spouse. You might want to look in the mirror. Not that I'm speaking from lived experience of, I might be the problem. That's what I think every man should look at himself in the mirror one time in their life and say, you know what? Just maybe it's me. My favorite part of the Matrix, and I don't think it hit me then when I first saw that movie in 1999, was when that kid goes, there is no spoon. Like that was the secret. And like now on the other side of a lot of mental health work, a lot of growth, a lot of success, things like that, like there really is no spoon, man, because it's just all stories. Like everything that we think we are is a story that we picked up along the way, and we could probably rewrite if we would just pick the pen back up. And when I'm coaching guys and when I'm coaching entrepreneurs or hanging out, we had a bunch of guys on a call just a little while ago in Great Men, and it was talking about these everything that everyone said they were like afraid of, or there was a couple guys feeling some fear in certain areas of their life. And when we unpacked it, it was a story. There was no spoon. There was nothing. There was no boogaboo in the closet that was about to jump out and eat them. It was literally just, I'm afraid of some figment of my imagination, right? That's just what it is, dude. It's like, unless
It's
someone
so
actually
true.
has a gun pointed at you, you're going to be fine. Okay. That one you may need to deal with. That's a real thing that's happening right there. But yeah, man, it's like, even like, I don't know, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, do you ever feel that way? Like you're down in the dumps, you're afraid to do something, take a leap, and then all of a sudden you're like, what the hell is going on? This isn't even, this is me making this up as I go, basically.
Yeah, it's crazy because like just even hearing you say this, I think a lot of people, they can't quite comprehend what you're saying and how powerful it actually is. And that's where, most people need a coach to like walk them through, how do I reframe the stories that I'm telling myself in my head? Because it is a self-induced suffering that we are putting ourselves through literally like 90% of the time.
Mm, mm. How do you coach? You work with athletes, you work with other people. Like, how do you get through the stories? Like, how do you cut through the stories? And because you can't tell someone it's a story, you can say their stories and kind of plant that. But if I'm like, yeah, you're telling yourself a story, it's not going to land right. You know what I'm saying? And I do think everyone needs coaches. I have coaches. Coaches need coaches. Everybody needs coaches. How do you coach those guys who are coming from that background of everybody telling they're amazing for 25 years of their life? And then they've got to shed that new identity, put a new identity on, and basically write a new story on the back of the one they already lived.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think a really powerful way of doing this is asking someone questions based upon how their future self would answer the questions.
Mm.
And so, asking your future self like to answer the questions for you or to reframe the story from you is really powerful, because now your perception of what's taking place in your life is coming from a place where you already healed and solved the problem.
Mm.
So I find that to be like a really powerful one to walk men through.
That's actually genius. I don't think I've ever heard anyone tell me that. I talk to a lot of coaches, but what it does is when you're looking back, you're only trying to wrestle with memories. Memories are not true, by the way, if anybody's listening to this right now. Like, most of your memories are just made up shit in your head, because, like, it is a fact that every memory you have is not accurate. It might be 90% accurate. Great. That 10% is screwing up your life. But when you think about it from the future, like, well, if you were already healed of this wasn't a problem. Look in 10 years and now look back at now and what happened. It triggers your imagination. So you like get out of the rumination when you're like looking back at yourself from your future self. You know what I'm saying? Yeah,
Because that's
yeah.
the thing, like most of your issues that you're suffering from in your head today is actually your past self speaking in its
Mm.
like scared old state of being. And so if you can get out of that scared state and be in your most empowered state of being, it changes your whole philosophy of how you go about solving the issue.
Dude, I'm gonna try this. I'm trying this with the next guy I coach. I'm just gonna be like, no, I came up with this amazing technique all on my own, by myself. No, I'll give you credit twice, but the third time I'm just gonna act like I made it up. Okay?
Yeah. Well, so I'll go ahead and reference another book on that one. So another life-changing book for me was Become Your Future Self Now. And
Mm.
once again, I can't remember the author of the book, but phenomenal
We'll put it
book.
in the show
So
notes.
highly
Yeah, we'll put it
recommend
in the
that.
show notes. What I got just a couple more questions here. What inspires Matt McKinney now? Like, not like what inspired you to achieve or whatever, but like now you're in a moment of transition, right? You got this maybe new girl in your life. You got kind of stepping toward a new, kind of new career, maybe a different role in your company. What inspires you right now? Like, what's inspiring you to go to the next level?
Yeah, so actually, my men's mindset and life coaching business is called Thor's Compass.
Mm.
And I'm taking some of my Viking ancestry and mixing it into mythology and how do we essentially become the change that we want to see in the world. And ultimately, that comes through our own self leadership and changing ourselves and leading ourselves first. And so, the program that I'm creating is about giving back more than anything and helping create impact in this world. Helping men achieve higher levels of consciousness is really big for me. And
Yeah.
ever since I'd read the book Letting Go by David Hawkins, it had a profound effect on me, learning the scale of human consciousness. And I think that that is the solution to many of the problems taking place in the world right now. And that needs to take place on an individual level before it can have an effect on the outer world. So,
Mm.
my whole program is based upon, identifying your negative subconscious beliefs, the negative emotions that you're carrying. How do we free ourselves from these so that we can show up as the leader that we are meant to be? And but that's how you actually change the world, is through inspiring the people around you. And once you have a mass collective of people that are doing that hard inner work and freeing themselves and inspiring people around them, that's when collective consciousness will change forever on this planet.
Heck yeah, bro. Dude, What a great freaking conversation. It was awesome having you at the guys trip too, man. It was such a blessing just to have you and your wisdom in there because we got after it, people. We were digging in, man. I think everyone expanded their consciousness at that event.
For sure.
And man, I'm excited to see what you do with this. I'm excited to see what you do. The world needs more Matt McKinneys in it, brother. And I'm just really grateful that you came on the podcast today, man. Hey, before we go, tell everybody where they can follow you online. And if they want to reach out and talk to you about some of the things we talked about today, let them know.
Yeah, the best place is on my Instagram. So that's Matt McKinney Coach. And just follow me on there, interact with me, and over time, let's create a relationship on there. And yeah, man, I'm super appreciative of you. I'm so glad that I met you, and look forward to a closer relationship moving forward.
You're a great man, Matt McKinney. Thanks for being on the show today, bro.
All right, my man. Talk soon.
All right, guys, that wraps up my conversation with Coach Matt McKinney. What an amazing human being. If you're a former athlete or you're a guy that just wants to expand his consciousness and maybe you're in an identity shift, highly recommend you go over to Matt's Instagram. That is at Matt McKinney Coach. He's got a lot of great content on there for you right now. Matt is also an attendee at our guys trips. We host guys trips all the time and a member of the Great Men community over at greatmen.org. The Great Men Brotherhood is where great men gather every single day. Inside, you've got the fire pit where men can share how they're feeling, be seen, get supported. We witness and we bear witness for each other. We've got the Forge, which is the Great Men Mastermind, where we talk about building your body, building your business, building your family, and all of the things that it takes to build a great life on your terms. We have weekly hangouts we call G-Melts. Great men eat lunch together, baby. It's every Wednesday at 12 o'clock. It's members only, but it's a chance to hang out, be seen, and see other guys doing the work out there in the world. We have guys' nights where we play cards and smoke cigars online. And, of course, we have our Great Men guys trips and gatherings, live events all around the country where we get together, we hang out, and we pursue greatness as a brotherhood. All of that is over at greatmen.org. Come find your brothers. This isn't some alpha circle jerk, and it's not some trauma circle where everybody's sitting around and crying. It's real men pursuing a great life that they define. That's all the time we have for this week, guys. Until next time, to all good men out there who are listening, who are feeling, aiming at, building, resting in, and pursuing greatness on your terms, keep going. You're not alone. Shane Sam's out. I'll see you soon.